Well, hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Joe Citizen Show. This is Roger Homefield. I am Joe Citizen, and so, of course, are you and everybody out there. We're going to need everybody to be Joe Citizen, come to the aid of this country. Well, we just had another big day. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, came for the much-anticipated historic speech before the joint sessions of Congress. That's both the House of Representatives and the Senate. But there were many Democrats, including presidential hopeful Kamala Harris, who decided to snub Netanyahu and skip the speech. This, after getting no official greeting at the tarmac. Stunning. You know, Netanyahu first became Prime Minister of Israel 35 years ago. In one capacity or another, for the past 35 years, he has been helping Israel ward off an existential threat every single day. And therefore, he's probably the greatest leader any country has had since World War II. But Kamala, she had more important things to do than listen to his speech in this critical time. Instead, she attended a college sorority convention. Seriously. We've discussed how any success that Hamas gets exhilarates terrorists worldwide. The success of Israel directly affects our own national security, as Netanyahu so nimbly pointed out. It was a very powerful speech. If you didn't see it, it's actually worth finding and watching it. It was powerful. It was compelling. He was very gracious to Biden, more so than I could have possibly been. He explained that Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis are all proxies of Iran, which is America's enemy as well. Israel is the last line of defense we have between us and Iran. Now, regarding the vile third world pro-terror demonstrations going on in America, Netanyahu labeled them as useful idiots of Iran. He added that gays for Palestine is like chickens for KFC. He also corrected me on something I've mentioned every now and then, that we don't want to have a clash of civilizations between the West and the East. But it's not a clash of civilizations here as far as the Western civilization. It's a clash between civilization and barbarity. And the fact that we have any indecision here of the United States on whose side we're on, it's really quite sad. You know, the war in the Mideast, it could have been over months ago had Chuck Schumer not entered the world stage with his famous Judas Act. It would have been over had Biden-Harris not interfered and tackled Israel on the 1-yard line, pulling a Hamas defeat out of the Israeli jaws of victory. Worse, by prolonging the war, it's like playing with matches on top of an oil tanker. Meanwhile, while Netanyahu was giving the speech before Congress, pro-Hamas mobs were vandalizing our American landmarks right outside in Washington, D.C., proving his case. When the police made an arrest, the mob surrounded them. The grossly undermanned police force managed 23 arrests while, quote, being assaulted by a mob of thousands. Why they were so undermanned, I don't know. You know, folks, if I was ever with a group and I kicked and spat and cursed and pushed and disobeyed a police officer, I'd expect to get my skull cracked with a nightstick, and I would have deserved it. And therein lies the problem, folks, because these dirtbags, no, they won't get their skulls cracked, which in their culture is the only language they understand. And I'm getting tired of calling them pro-Hamas or pro-Palestine or anti-Israel. No. They are Hamas. They say so. They even spray painted for us in big lettering for us to see and read, "We are Hamas." Okay, we believe you. Now let's get rid of you. The graffiti included red triangles often used in Hamas videos, which are meant to denote the targeting of enemies. So they're targeting us right here on our own soil, and we put up with it. The Liberty Bell replica the Freedom Bell was completely covered in graffiti and said, "Abolish the USA." So screw them. As far as I'm concerned, they are Hamas, and every one of them should be arrested and or deported. Everyone there participated in breaking the law, and they should all be held accountable, not just a handful. Now, Netanyahu, he was quite generous, actually, in calling them Iran's useful idiots. To me, these dirtbags are masked terrorists. The U.S. flags were burnt, replaced with Palestinian flags. People that tried to stop it were pushed aside. And here's the punchline, ladies and gentlemen, all amid chants of Allah Akbar. Now, let's stop right there and talk for a moment, because Allah Akbar, I'm sorry, but for me, that's the straw breaking this camel's back. That's a war cry. Remember 9/11? Well, if I have some face-covered punk in front of me, dressed up like a terrorist, yelling Allah Akbar, I would have to either run or knock him on his ass. Because in the planet I come from, when someone dressed and acting like a terrorist yells Allah Akbar, that's their war cry right before they blow something up. So to me, yelling Allah Akbar is like taking the first swing. And frankly, after 9/11, anyone running around with masks and keffiyehs on their heads, screaming death to America and Allah Akbar, they deserve to be knocked on their ass by the police, arrested and deported, because these are not peaceful demonstrators. They're the enemy on our soil, domestic or foreign, thumbing their noses at us. Nothing is ever peaceful about the Islamists. So why doesn't the Department of Justice throw their asses in solitary confinement like they did to the January 6ers? Well, now that we know Kamala is running, we're seeing some real-time revisionism in the rewriting of history that's not even very old. I mean, it usually takes a generation or two for revisionism to kick in, but the Democrats, they do it in real time. It's incredible. Now they're trying to tell us that she never was the border czar. When semantics aside, everybody remembers Biden putting her before the American public as being in charge of the border. And so it goes. And this nonsense of her going to South America to discover the root cause was always ridiculous, because the root cause was always the Biden, Harris, Obama agenda. Come on. We were inviting them up. They used to have recordings in Spanish going to South America, telling them how to come up, what to say under Obama's administration. Who are they kidding? They actually had the audacity to blame Republicans for blocking this stupid new border bill. They love to bring that up. Oh, the Republicans blocked the bill. The bill was a joke because it allowed for 2,500 illegals a day, essentially legalizing illegal crossings. Everything is semantics with them. Everything is semantics and the perversion of the language. These are the nonstop semantics they play because they have zero policy. Zero policy. So after Kamala's meeting with Netanyahu, an Israeli official told Axios that Netanyahu was unhappy with Harris's comments. Well, it didn't take Kamala very long. The Israeli official said, quote, "When our enemies see that the United States and Israel are aligned, it increases the chances for a hostage deal and decreases the chances for a regional escalation. But when there is such daylight between us, it pushes the deal further away and brings a regional escalation closer." He continues to say, "We hope that Harris's public criticism of Israel won't give Hamas the impression that there is daylight between the United States and Israel, and as a result, make it harder to get a deal." Close quote. You know, hey, we've been saying this for months, that if we would just shut up about what Israel should and shouldn't do, talk about a backseat driver. If we had just supported Israel like we said we were going to, this war would have been over months ago. So, Kamala, if the situation is so dire, Why are you blaming Israel? Why aren't you telling Hamas to surrender? What a concept. You don't hear that often. You don't hear it at all. Hamas started the war, didn't they? They lost the war, haven't they? So why don't you demand they surrender for their people? You said you won't stay silent, so there you go. Why don't you open your mouth and demand that Hamas surrender? You know, Kamala Harris is worse than Biden on Middle East issues. And while Biden sold Israel down the river for votes in Dearborn, Michigan, Kamala Harris, like Obama, is ideologically on board and somewhat of a terrorist sympathizer. So the Republicans, who never fight often enough for most things, but forcing Biden out of office now is not something they should fight for. Mike Johnson, please be careful what you wish for. Don't force Biden out of office now, giving Kamala all kinds of time to do permanent damage. Let Joe finish out his term and not make things far worse than they already are. Not to mention handing her an incumbency to run on. Something I'm very concerned about, something I really don't even want to talk about it. And unfortunately, I'm not alone. Dan Bongino, formerly with the Secret Service, shares my worry. So I'm concerned that if to any degree the assassination to any degree was an inside job, then how can we trust the inside to investigate it? We need an outside special investigator for this, but that, of course, won't happen until Trump is already in office. Dan Bongino says he's afraid for Trump's safety, which frankly makes me afraid. And I don't like making you afraid, but we just can't assume that whoever masterminded this attack won't do it again. Now, hopefully, all of the incompetence was just coincidental, and Crooks, the shooter, was a one-man operation. But if not, we need to get to the bottom of it immediately. Regardless, this will hurt Trump rallies to some degree, simply because now, instead of having 50 or 60,000 people or more, 106,000 in New Jersey, he will be inside an arena, and all his rallies won't appear all that much different from Harris's, whose rallies will, of course, also be inside, probably smaller venues, but that won't matter with the cameras. They always manage to find a way of clawing some additional edge. So what are they going to do with the inauguration? We're not going to move that inside. By the way, if you haven't found out for yourselves yet, we're dealing with a bunch of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, infected masses, many of whom actually believe that Trump was not shot and it was staged. Which, by the way, is one of the reasons Christopher Wray should resign. He erroneously bumbled out fodder for the left, saying Trump may have been hit with shrapnel and not a bullet, when he had zero basis for saying that. Trump's doctor, Ronnie Jackson, gave detailed information on the bullet wound through the ear. And this is the director of the FBI. Wray knew exactly what he was doing when he said that. An intentional distraction. So something is very wrong here, and I just hope that we have enough of our own eyes looking in the right directions. So once again, these pro-Hamas, useful idiot rioters once again defiled our statues in Washington, D.C., and gave the middle finger to America and her culture. And for all of their damage, violence, disruption, hatred for America, there were only 25 arrests, which really was admirable because they were outmanned by the mob, terribly outnumbered by the mob. And out of the 25, they actually have to throw out the charges on most of them. So there you go. So let's play who's in jail and who's not. So only 11 of those arrests will stick. And there were no arrests from that hateful Muslim mob that surrounded the Los Angeles synagogue last month. But do you know who has been arrested? 10 pro-lifers, mostly in their 60s and 70s, who illegally blocked entry for an abortion clinic for 2 hours. They received 2 to 5 year prison sentences. Paula Harlow, 77, is wheelchair bound. Her primary caregiver is her husband, John, who pleaded for mercy at the court, saying she's going to need me. She can't continue to live without me. And the judge's response was that Paula, quote, should make every effort to remain alive because that's part of the tenets of your religion, the judge said. Now, to me, there's something mockingly cruel about that, telling the woman, in essence, that, hey, your religion got you into this mess to begin with, so now you can use your religion to stay alive without your caregiver. Sounds like Christian bashing to me. You know, I thought the left was supposed to be all about compassion. Unless you're a Christian or a conservative, and then they are merciless. This judge should be ashamed of herself. And there are several other women, all in their late 70s, who should be released immediately. They are no threat to society. We routinely let violent, sadistic punks out. We let them out of jail onto the streets in minutes, thanks to people like Kamala Harris. And this judge lets these women in their late 70s die in jail because they were trying to save some unborn babies just to make an example out of them. Yeah, how dare they block this temple? I mean, this abortion clinic, which apparently is their temple. So for 2 hours, they blocked access to the abortion clinic. Imagine that. How long did the Hamas mobs take over their college campuses for? 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months? Who knows? How long was the takeover in Washington, D.C.? Meanwhile, January 6ers languished in solitary confinement, forgotten by America. J6er Matthew Perna committed suicide. His family said he really died of a broken heart. Now, most of the J6ers were peaceful and were political prisoners, are political prisoners, grossly mistreated and denied their due process and speedy trial. The treatment of these people is what you might expect in a Russian gulag, and once known, will shock the American consciousness. To this day, the FBI and the Department of Justice have still refused to disclose how many agents they had dressed up in Trump attire at the Capitol that day. Why? Embarrassingly too many? Why hide the number? Considering we know that the entire deep state has been ganging up on Trump for years, my logic leads me to believe that there were at least several hundred agents in Trump attire who could have very well been the ones who led the charge. I mean, what else would they be doing there in Trump attire? Just infiltrating to protect everyone? That would be nice. But do we have any footage of FBI in Trump hats trying to stop anyone from going in? No, of course not. So the question begs, of the people we see leading the charge, are they the federal agents? Hey, look, as they say, when you don't give the information, that's when conspiracy theories flourish. And considering every other damn thing that this government has done, all of which I never would have imagined in my younger years, anything is possible. So we need to get some answers. How many damn agents did they have there in Trump garb? What were they doing there in Trump garb? What was the purpose of them being there in Trump garb? Was this their new, quote, insurance policy? That Trump would never come back to office? Look, folks, once you lose trust, like I say, all types of scenarios are then on the table. Two-time guest on this show, J6er advocate Tim Rivers, authored The American Gulag Chronicles. His website is j6patriotnews.com. His interview is on joecitizenshow.com. And by the way, Mr. Obama, after being lectured to for 8 years about who we are, I can tell you this is definitely not who we are. So the Democrats don't want the SAVE Act, which would prevent illegals from voting. And the Democrats don't want to have any voter ID either. They're not even hiding their desire for illegals to vote. You know, I believe it's fair to say that most of us have lost trust in the FBI, the CIA, IRS, CDC, and all the rest, which makes it absolutely imperative that we vote in a new, energetic Trump team that will clean house before this infection kills us all. You know, we may already be under siege. To what degree, we do not know. But what we do know so far is that Trump, after the attempt on his life, offered unity. And all we've gotten back so far is zero respect and zero empathy. In fact, the left has doubled down on their malicious smears against Trump and his supporters. They've continued with the Hitler memes and all this asinine nonsense. Well, they have zero policy to talk about. So that's what they do. But they're small-minded, they're malicious, and they're cruel. It was never like this in America. They have true malice for us, which is why friendships and families are being destroyed across this country. And no. It's not both sides. It's mostly, if not all, coming from the left. Supporters of MAGA have been called bigots, racists, Islamophobes, white supremacists, domestic terrorists, and threats to democracy. And we have been called all these things by our very own president over and over and over and over again, along with Kamala's approval. But attention, all of you Democrat machine stars, you big political stars, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, Obama, Jeffries, Hillary Nadler, Brennan Clapper, and many, 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 many more. Listen up. For 10 years, you have knowingly, falsely vilified Trump with smears, libel, sabotage, leaks, spying, lawfare, and even framing him as a traitor. All lies which you call politics. Here's my advice to you. I'm trying to help you. It would really be in your very best interest to help see to it that not a single orange strand of hair is disturbed on Trump's head and not a single wrinkle on his lapel. Because, justly or not, if any harm should once again come to President Trump, tens and tens and tens and tens of millions of Americans will forever hold you responsible. You got a reprieve this time. I just figured you really need to consider this. You know, there are many great things, folks, happening on the horizon. The Republican Trump platform is outstanding and will, in fact, make America great. It'll make America greater than ever before. And, folks, it's not too late for us. It really, really isn't. We just need to remember who we were right after 9/11, before Obama and the radicals came into power to split us all apart. No parent wants to live to see their child die. No patriot wants to live to see America die. We can never, ever, ever allow that to happen. This is the Joe Citizen Show. I'm Roger Homefield. Thank you for being with us.
Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. See you in November at the polls, where we are gonna have our say. throw these fools away.
Counting the days till we're rid of you. Counting the hours and the minutes too.
Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye, so long. Bye-bye, so long, farewell. Bye-bye.